Welcome back, dear listeners, to another captivating chapter on Red Hunt, where we delve into the intricate tapestry of human connections and unravel the raw, unfiltered stories shared within the depths of relationship Reddit. Am I the antagonist for putting my deaf child on a normal team? I am a 38-year-old woman with two daughters, Scarlett 9 and Mackenzie 7. They both have a passion for gymnastics and are very athletic. Mackenzie is deaf but uses cochlear implants to help her hear, and she loves to talk and sing. She has been attending a gymnastics team for deaf children since she was 3 years old. Scarlett is on a different team at another gym, where they participate in more competitions. Recently, Mackenzie expressed interest in joining her sister's team because she feels bored in her deaf class. It would also be more convenient for me since I wouldn't have to take them to different places. However, I was hesitant to place Mackenzie in a normal class due to concerns about her ability to hear the coaches and the possibility of bullying. Despite my concerns, I decided to call Scarlett's gym a month ago and explain that Mackenzie wanted to join the team. I also asked if the coaches could use a voice box that could connect to her cochlear implants and help her hear better. The gym staff explained that there might be difficulties with using the voice box as it could be a choking hazard. Nonetheless, they assured me they would find a solution, and Mackenzie would be able to join the team the following week. During Mackenzie's first class, instead of running errands, I chose to observe the girls from the waiting room. I was thrilled to see both of my daughters showcasing their skills, and I was particularly pleased to notice that the coaches were providing individual attention to Mackenzie. While I was watching, I overheard two women making rude comments about Mackenzie. They insensitively mentioned that she was stealing attention from the other girls and should not be on the team. I approached them and explained that Mackenzie is deaf but can hear with her cochlear implants. They found it unusual that I included her in a regular team and expressed the opinion that children with disabilities should not be part of a team with typically developing kids. I was furious and asked them to stop talking about my daughter. Although they ceased their conversation, I could still sense their unkind glances and whispers during the rest of the practice. When my children finished, I asked Mackenzie how her experience was. She told me that she loved the coaches, but the girls were not as kind to her. They had been gossiping about her and excluding her, and she even discovered that they had a sleepover without inviting her. I also noticed the moms talking about me and my daughter. 2 days ago, there was a major competition where both of my girls participated, marking Mackenzie's first competition. While Mackenzie was performing, the other moms were rolling their eyes. To make matters worse, one of the moms called me a derogatory term for placing Mackenzie on the team. I understand that Mackenzie may divert some attention away from the other girls, but she feels awful about it. I am confused as to how this makes us bad people. All I want is for both of my daughters to be happy. So, am I the one in the wrong? It's clear that you're just trying to support both of your daughters and give them equal opportunities. It's unfortunate that some people are being insensitive and exclusionary, but you're doing the right thing by standing up for your family. Keep supporting your daughters and don't let the negativity get to you. My partner of almost 3 years has been living a double life. I broke up with my girlfriend last night after being together for almost 3 years. About a month into our relationship, I noticed that she was texting someone with a heart next to their name. She insisted that it was her cousin who used that symbol to annoy him and make it funny. I found this very suspicious and decided to check her Facebook profile to search for this person by name. To my surprise, I found out that the only person with that name was her ex-boyfriend. Instead of directly confronting her, I decided to do something I had never done in any other relationship. I checked her phone when she left it unlocked in the bathroom. I discovered messages saying I love you exchanged between her and her ex. When I confronted her, she claimed that it meant nothing and it was just a habit from their 5-year relationship. She deleted his contacts and promised not to contact him again. I forgave her, believing in our relationship, and chose to move on, but the worry still lingered in the back of my mind. She always insisted on coming to my place and never allowed me to visit her. She claimed that her cousin, whom she lived with, had a medical condition that made him behave badly if anyone came over. Whenever I noticed any suspicious coincidences, it would lead to arguments. Suddenly, her ex disappeared from Facebook, and she said he must have deleted his account. However, I later discovered that he had actually blocked me, and I could still see his profile through someone else's account, and he was still her friend. I told her I didn't believe her cousin existed and that she still lived with her ex. She reassured me that it was not true, and she made me doubt my own thoughts, making me believe that I was becoming paranoid. I continued to insist on meeting her cousin, but she always made excuses, claiming he was too busy with work or simply refusing to meet me. Finally, she sent me a picture of her with her cousin at a college event, which relieved me. I thought I had been mistaken all along. However, while scrolling through Instagram, I saw a familiar face. It was the same cousin from the photo, tagging her with a completely different name during his college graduation. I confronted her once again, and she admitted that she panicked because she didn't have a picture of her cousin, so she sent that picture hoping I would drop the subject. She insisted that everything else she had said was true. With hesitation, I chose to believe her once more, and we moved forward. I was not invited to her graduation for her master's degree. She claimed that due to COVID, she only had 2 tickets, which she needed to use for her mom and sick aunt who were coming from out of town. She also said that the graduation ceremony was not being live-streamed. However, thinking that maybe she was embarrassed, I checked the official website on the day of her graduation and discovered that not only was it going to be live streamed, but there were no COVID restrictions at that time, meaning that tickets were not necessary to attend. I was hurt by this notion in general. She explained that her mom would not be okay with meeting me there because she was extremely difficult to deal with. Eventually, she suggested that I go but wait in the car, and she would come to meet me immediately after the ceremony. I declined the offer, and though we had arguments about it, we moved past it. Around that time, I met a friend of hers who was visiting from out of state. This friend seemed to be the only person in my girlfriend's life that I could meet. As my anxiety grew, I requested even more to finally meet this cousin and dispel my concerns. She surprised me with a phone call while I was at work, saying that her cousin had agreed to have lunch with us. However, he canceled at the last minute, claiming that he had forgotten about work obligations. To make up for it, he sent her $50 on Venmo so that she and I could go get something instead. Suspicious once again, a few days later, I asked to see her Venmo history. Conveniently, she claimed her account had been hacked and closed it. Not long after this incident, we finally had lunch with her cousin. Now, looking back, I wonder who that person really was. After that, things seemed to improve for a while, and I became blissfully ignorant. However, over a year later, something triggered me, and I spiraled into paranoia, reconsidering every concern and coincidence that had occurred. In the midst of my anxiety, I went on a Google search spree to find information about her ex to either validate or invalidate my thoughts. That's when I stumbled upon what I thought was the conclusive evidence. I found updated mailing information from 5 months earlier which showed that they were living at the same address. Seeing something so incriminating made me feel nauseous. I never wanted to be right. This led to the most difficult fight we had. I demanded concrete evidence from her to prove somehow that I was wrong about everything. Many incidents and coincidences were brought up once again. Ultimately, I broke down and believed her for the last time. I thought that my own judgment had betrayed me, and that I was completely wrong, and this belief was destroying whatever was left of our relationship. The following week seemed fantastic as we reignited the passion that had faded after 2.5 years together. However, something still felt off. Without her allowing me to visit her, I could never fully trust her. I reached my breaking point and decided that enough was enough. After finishing an exhausting double shift at work, I drove 50 minutes to her apartment to see if she actually lived there as she claimed. I wanted to believe her, but I needed to verify it for myself. I arrived at her place, but her car was nowhere to be found. So, I decided to drive to the address that I had found earlier. There, I found her car parked. I called her while circling the block and demanded that she come outside, return my spare key, and that I never wanted to see or speak to her again. She gave me the key, and I embarked on the long drive home with her last words echoing in my mind, still claiming that things were not as they seemed. It sounds like you've both been through a lot and have tried your best to make things work. Counseling seems like a good idea, but I understand that finding something within your budget can be challenging. It's important to prioritize your own happiness and well-being, so maybe exploring other options or resources for counseling could help you both find the clarity and communication you need in your relationship. My husband is deployed and doesn't seem to care about me. How should I bring this up to him? My husband is currently deployed in the military. We have been married for 4 years and do not have children. I am in my final semester of college and currently working as a student teacher. I was advised not to have another job as a student teacher because it is essentially a full-time position without pay. We have always maintained separate accounts, and my husband knows that I am responsible with money. Since he is the sole earner now, I asked him before he left if I could be added to his bank account and have a debit card for emergencies. I assured him that I would only use it if absolutely necessary. He informed me that I am already on his bank account and can withdraw money at any time by visiting the bank. Although I initially wanted a debit card, I decided not to argue and prioritized spending time with him before he left. He left shortly before Christmas, so it was my responsibility to buy gifts for his entire family. He didn't assist in choosing gifts. I did all the shopping by myself. However, he did cover the expenses and sent me exact amounts. If I spent $31.27 on a gift, he would send me $31.27. Unfortunately, none of his family members expressed gratitude for their presents. Our financial situation wouldn't be a concern if my husband didn't constantly update me every 2 weeks on his earnings. While he is away, he often boasts about his income and sends me screenshots of his bank balance. He is making a substantial amount of money right now, but apart from the funds he sent for his family's Christmas gifts, I haven't received any of it. Whenever I mention wanting a t-shirt or needing new jeans, he promises to buy them for me but never follows through. On my birthday, I asked for a set of books, and he assured me they would be purchased. After a month passed without receiving them, I inquired if he had ordered them. He admitted that he never did. I don't expect him to financially support me while he's away, nor do I anticipate lavish gifts. However, since I am currently not earning any income, it would make me happy to receive even a small amount of money for myself occasionally. It feels as though he no longer cares about me now that he's gone. Over a month ago, I expressed to him that I would appreciate a heartfelt, handwritten letter or any thoughtful gesture considering the long time we'd be apart. I've sent him 2 letters already. He responded by saying he didn't have any paper or pens and would need to buy some. However, a few days later, he sent me a photo revealing a notebook and pen. It's not difficult to make me happy, yet it seems challenging for him to make any effort. I acknowledge that it may sound terrible, but I don't feel like I'm truly married at the moment. It seems as though our connection has diminished since he left. I feel incredibly lonely and unloved in every aspect. I'm unsure how to address this issue with him. Could something else be happening? Am I expecting too much? I would appreciate any advice. It sounds like you're going through a tough time right now, and it's understandable that you're feeling neglected and alone. While it's important to communicate your concerns to your husband, keep in mind that deployment can also be stressful for military personnel, so there might be other factors at play here. It might be helpful to have an open and honest conversation with him about how you're feeling and try to find a way to reconnect and support each other during this difficult time. I am second-guessing moving out of my girlfriend's place. I moved in with my girlfriend 6 months ago. We have been together for a year and a half. We both owned houses that we loved, but at her insistence, I moved into her place. However, her place is not comfortable for me, and she is not open to redecorating it to match my taste. Meanwhile, I had to move, sell, and throw out a lot of my stuff. In the first month of moving in, I spent a couple $1,000s on fixing up the house, worked on my old place every night and weekend, hired a property manager, and rented out my place. Almost immediately after moving in, we started having fights. Small things I did would upset her. I am not messy, but I am not extremely neat either. Whenever I did something that didn't align with her preferences, she would accuse me of being messy. If I forgot something, she would say my memory is concerning or that I was lazy. I believe it's a matter of different preferences and that it takes time to change habits. I tried to be more conscientious, but it got to the point where I couldn't leave a room without feeling like I had to obsessively double-check everything, and I would still end up forgetting something. We both felt like we were doing much more work to maintain the house than before I moved in. The criticisms and fights were so intense that after 3 weeks, I seriously considered moving back out. However, this would have cost me a lot of money in moving expenses and canceling the agent I hired to find a tenant. I started to feel depressed, lost interest in things, had trouble sleeping, gained weight, and began seeing a therapist. I also started losing passion for the relationship, but I decided to stick it out. We would go a week or two without a fight, but eventually, frustrations would arise. If something upset her, she would withdraw, become silent, or respond with one-word answers to open-ended questions. Eventually, she would bring up multiple issues at once, bringing up past faults and using words like should, always, and never. Sarcastic comments also became common. I would point out these behaviors and ask her to stop, but it always went the same way, no matter how hard she tried to adjust. It made me feel unwanted, like a burden, and like there was something wrong with me. During many fights, I tearfully begged her to stop criticizing me, and she would shout back, "Why do you stay?" I took this literally and answered, "Because I love you, but I hope the behavior will change." I eventually suggested couples therapy, but I asked her to seek therapy for herself as well. In our last big fight, she yelled, "You should move out." A few days later, I told her that I was going to start looking for a place to go. Fortunately, I found a sublease through a friend of a friend that coincided with when my tenant's lease would be up, allowing me to move back to my old place. It's just a few miles away and is just as big as the house we're currently sharing. After a couple of days, she began asking me to reconsider and expressed regret for telling me to move out. She has been pushing me to stay and claims to have suddenly changed her perspective. She says she is working on changing, and things have been pleasant recently. We haven't started therapy yet, but she is reading about the issues I've pointed out. I informed her that I still plan on moving out at the end of the month, and I have a meeting with the landlord this week to finalize the paperwork. She mentioned that moving out is giving up and implied that our relationship is over if I follow through with it. I see this as an opportunity to reset and evaluate both the changes and the relationship without stress. Questions: Is moving out giving up? Should I try to save the relationship? Should I stay at my girlfriend's place at least until my tenant's lease is up? Or should I move out and try to work things out from a neutral location, then move again, either back to my old place, back to her place, or to a new place? Moving out is not necessarily giving up, especially if it's for the sake of your mental health and happiness. It seems like you've already tried to work on the relationship while living together and gave it your best shot, but sometimes a fresh start from neutral ground can provide clarity and a chance to reevaluate the situation. Trust your instincts and do what feels right for you. Am I the antagonist for not wanting to pump out art I don't like making for money? My boyfriend knows that I, a 24-year-old female, enjoy drawing, painting, and creating art on my own terms. Occasionally, I have made chibi or animated versions of people I know, but I have expressed that I don't enjoy making them frequently. However, he has become fixated on the idea of me creating webcomics and stickers and constantly insists that I produce them, suggesting that I make one chibi per day and a webcomic per week. He doesn't seem to understand that this is time-consuming and adds a lot of pressure, considering my responsibilities with work, school, and the house. Additionally, I don't particularly enjoy creating art in that style, but he keeps pressuring me, claiming it's a disservice not to share my art and capitalize on my talent. However, if it's art that I don't enjoy making, Is it even worth it? Is it so wrong for me to not want to create in the style he prefers, especially with all the pressure he's putting on me? This pressure has been going on for months, and he constantly tries to convince me to make webcomics and stickers for money. Honestly, I can't stand it. I haven't created anything in weeks because the daily pressure to make chibis or a webcomic just hurts my brain. I haven't even produced a single comic or posted anything yet because I don't want to make shibais. He has even told everyone we know about his idea, and now other people are expecting this content that I have no desire to create. The more pressure he puts on me, the less motivated I am to do it. Anyway, we were on the phone. He's at work and I'm 1 week post-op, and I came across a meme that said, "Your art doesn't have to make money to be important." I read it out loud and he started going on again about the chibis in the webcomic. I became frustrated and expressed that I don't want to spend all my time making chibis and that this situation causes a lot of stress for me. The more he pressures me, the less willing I am to do it, although I was considering it before. I ended up crying, and he responded by telling me I was making excuses and that my reluctance was due to being a perfectionist. This made me raise my voice and say something along the lines of, "I don't want to churn out art that I don't enjoy making, and that I am not proud of just to please you." After that, we both fell silent until he hung up. Now I feel guilty because I understand that he just wants me to create something and receive admiration for it. He hopes I can tell stories and make some extra money, so he's excited. However, it's frustrating because I want to create things that I am genuinely proud of and that I enjoy. I have never been into webcomics or animations, and I don't necessarily want to pursue them. I simply want to make art that brings me joy. Is that so wrong? Your boyfriend should respect your artistic choices and not force you to produce content that you don't enjoy making. It's important for you to create art that you're proud of and that brings you happiness. Don't feel guilty for standing up for what you want and need as an artist. My boyfriend has a colleague I'm worried about. My boyfriend and I have been together for over a year. Recently, he started an internship as a graphic designer, and he has a few friends who are also interns working near his office. One of his colleagues, who we'll call A, is a female that he has become close with. Although they work in different offices, they often collaborate and go to lunch together with their other intern friends. They also sometimes drive each other to lunch, which I found out after asking my boyfriend one day. I was surprised that he didn't mention it to me beforehand. He assured me that he already informed us that he has a girlfriend and needs to maintain boundaries. Still, they continue to spend a lot of time together, driving each other and going to lunch together regularly. I started feeling uneasy about A, even though I've never been controlling and have always been fine with my boyfriend having female friends. However, I secretly read their texts on WhatsApp because of my discomfort. In the messages, they discuss things unrelated to work, which doesn't bother me. But at the end of one conversation, my boyfriend mentioned that he was going to play basketball. I didn't understand why he felt the need to report this to her. In another instance, A shared her relationship problems with my boyfriend. In response, he sent her a picture of himself flexing his muscles at the gym with a caption that said, "This is what you call a man." He also called her pretty. I found this action problematic, especially since they had only known each other for a few weeks. I couldn't confront him about it because I had read their texts in secret. Instead, I asked if I could read his text with her to gauge his reaction. However, he refused, stating that it would make him uncomfortable. This made me wonder why he would hide his texts unless there was something to hide. He brought up the past when he asked to read my texts with a guy who was interested in me. Although I gave him permission, I asked him not to be upset by it since the guy often compliments me. Despite my request, he claimed not to have looked at my texts because he respects and trusts me. Feeling guilty, I didn't bring it up again. A few days later, I asked him once more why he wouldn't show me his texts if he had nothing to hide. I couldn't understand why trust should only be based on words and not actions. He became quiet and played with his phone. My gut feeling told me that he was deleting his texts with A. Later, when he went to shower and left his phone charging instead of bringing it with him as he usually did, I checked again. My suspicions were confirmed. He had deleted their texts on WhatsApp and Instagram. At that moment, a notification from A popped up, indicating that they had been sending each other videos on TikTok as well. I don't use TikTok, but I often share Reels with him. However, he rarely sends me Reels and responds mostly with emojis. In contrast, he replies to the TikTok videos, sends him, and frequently sends her videos as well. I apologize for the lengthy post, but I wanted to provide all the details. I feel like my boyfriend isn't prioritizing me, and this situation is taking a toll on my mental and emotional well-being. It sounds like there may be some trust issues and red flags in your relationship when it comes to your boyfriend's interactions with his colleague. It's important to have open and honest communication with him about your concerns in order to work through them together and figure out a solution that works for both of you. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.